Hello, hello, hello. I'm back. Welcome to a Shoe Snob podcast. Title is Where Have I Been? So, since I've done the last podcast, which I don't even know how long ago that was now, maybe a year ago, a lot has changed. A lot has changed for me for the positive. That's because as I get older, my mind changes on what my priorities and values are. And, my dreams have changed. Maybe that's not getting older, but maybe that's just being a family man. When you're young, you chase your career dreams. And then when you get older, I guess you have a family, you chase your family dreams. So, some of you might find what's happened to be sad. I don't really see it as sad. I see everything as a pivot to a new move forward. So, anyways, as you see, the setup is different than the last video I've done at a table or desk, whatever you want to call it. And we are now in a new environment. There are no more shoes except for my shoes that I made by hand 16 years ago in Italy. We have a different backdrop, and this will be the new backdrop for at least the next few years, let's say. So where have I been? Well, back when I had my New York City shop, as many of you know, I closed that shop in August. And when I had that shop, life was chaotic. Life was chaotic mainly because I was doing way too much and not having enough time to do everything that I have embarked on in my life, I run my own shoe company called J. Fitzpatrick Footwear, where I deal with production, I deal with the emails, I was in the shop dealing with shipping, dealing with packing, dealing with many things, the social media, etc., etc. On top of that, I run the Shoe Snob blog. This is one extension of the blog, aka the YouTube channel that you're watching now. This is probably also on the blog post, but the blog has Instagram, the blog has Facebook, even the blog has Pinterest, but I never do anything with it, even though I should, because I think Pinterest is a good avenue. I even have Twitter, but I don't use that, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. That's more just, automatic post sent there from wherever. I don't even know if my Instagram posts go there anymore, to be honest. So I never look at that platform. But anyways, there's J. Fitzpatrick, the blog, I got the marketplace, I have my own Shoe Snob shop, selling my shoes that people send me, selling my used shoes, so I'm doing like 4 or 5 things all at once. On top of that, I live in New Jersey, and my commute to New York cost me about 3.5 hours of my life every single day. In a commute, you can kind of get some work done on your phone, but you can't do, you can't really do the thorough work, so to speak. So the shop was too much. It was too much. Too much for too little gained. And I don't say that not appreciative of everything that I gained during my shop time, but when you're running a business, you got to be realistic about figures and things that cost you versus what they give you in return for that cost. Not only was the cost financial, but the cost was in time. And time is one of those things, as you get older, you realize is your most important asset, commodity, whatever you want to call it, that you can't buy, you can't give back, and you start to realize that you need more of it for the things that truly matter. And commuting to a New York City shop, with all due respect, didn't matter as much as spending time with my family, being here for my family, not being away from the house 13 hours a day. And yeah, so the lease was coming up, and we just decided to call it quits on a New York City life. because the rates are getting more expensive, but the people outside are not being more dressy. Let's just put it that way. You know, I think in Wall Street now, you don't even have to wear a suit, which is crazy. And if you don't have to wear a suit, you can bet they're darn sure aren't wearing dress shoes. So, you know, when most of the people can work remotely and the guys that are supposed to be always in a suit don't have to be in a suit anymore, well, let's just say a traditional shop front is just no longer as valuable as it once was. You know, I think the average guy is now used to getting stuff online. It's the world we live in. As long as there's a good return policy, I think it's in a good kind of you know, size guidance or customer service that can help with size guidance, and I think men are quite comfortable with making that purchase online. Now, not everybody is, and sure, we'll lose some of that, but I'd rather lose some of that and gain a whole lot of other, and that's the decision I made, and now I'm running my life completely differently, and to be honest, I'm happier than ever, because I'm not a slave to my own shop. I can be more creative. I can finally sit down and do a podcast video. In the past, I only had like an hour to do a podcast video because once the shop opened up, I couldn't set up a whole camera situation. I needed silence. I couldn't have somebody walking in, knocking. You could hear the construction on the street in the New York City shop. Here, at best, you're going to hear the birds chirping. You're going to hear those beautiful sounds. But you won't hear that through a wall like you would in New York. So, you know, as soon as my son goes to school and my wife's off to her job, I have the whole setup to myself now to make videos all day long, which in reality I want to start doing more of. I want to make more videos. I was always frustrated at myself that I wasn't giving enough time dedicated to the blog, to making videos, to sharing my education and content with all of you, because in reality that's what I started this all for. I started this all for to share, to educate, to open men's eyes into the world of beautiful footwear. So my new setup, life, etc., getting back those 3.5, 4 hours a day that I was commuting is now going to allow me to do more of that. And granted, I closed the shop 2 months ago, but since then it's just been chaotic. You know, when you relocate your business, resetting it up in a new environment, a new situation, takes time. It takes organizational skills, setting up this, setting up that. At the same time, we did close our shop a little bit early. The landlord wanted to try to gain a new tenant prior to the summer being over, so we negotiated a much earlier release than our actual 5-year lease ending. So that came faster than expected, which means I had to move really quickly, and I had already had a vacation planned to go back to where I'm from, Pacific Northwest. And so, you know, I moved the business and then immediately had a 2-week vacation, and then I had my mother coming over from Europe, and then I had a super trunk show, so it was just like bing, bang, boom, bam, 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 bam. I had guests in my house. I could never do a video, but now finally everything's back to normal. I have quiet, you can hear silence. I have the house to myself, and now I can keep doing the educational videos and the unboxing videos and all of those things that I've been lacking in for some time now. So don't feel bad that I closed my shop. This is not a failure or backwards or any of that, to be honest. The world has drastically changed. If the world was the same prior to 2020, I'm sure the shop would be thriving. But the whole world changed, and so I don't see it as a backstep. To be honest, part of the reason for me realizing was that when I got to Soho, Taft had a store just down the block. Now Taft does, but they're like 20 times larger than my brand, at least, I think, from the figures I've heard. And they closed and they were on Prince Street, which is a street that gets way more traffic than my, beautiful little Thompson Street. And they closed their shop. And I thought, and every time I walked by it, I didn't see anybody in there. And yet the brand is 20 times larger than mine. It's far more catering to the average guy and not just the, shoe enthusiasts. And I realized if a brand that's 20 times my size doesn't see the value in a street that gets 10 times the amount of traffic, what am I doing? What am I doing? I realize a shop is nothing more than a luxury. It's to say I have a New York City shop, but I don't care about none of that ego trip stuff. I bet I would be willing to bet that 90% of shops in New York City lose money. And when I say shops, excuse me, I mean retail menswear. I really do, because I think it's more luxury and vanity. The rates are so expensive. The traffic is so is not the same. I don't. And when I say lose money, I mean really don't make profit. Like in the sense they're just, especially the big ones on the big streets. Those rents are crazy. My rent alone, I was spending around $10K a month in Soho on an off street. You can bet that Taft was probably spending double that, or maybe they got grandfathered into a good lease prior to COVID. But they were definitely spending more than me as a bigger brand with more traffic. So you start to realize, if there's no value in that, if they saw that was more just facade than actual value, there's no point keeping mine, because for the 10 grand price tag, it wasn't justifying enough revenue for me to hire a full-time employee to run the shop while I went and grew the business. So, one could say, well, maybe that was my fault. Maybe I didn't put enough into the marketing. Who knows? Either way, it doesn't matter. It just never became that. And partly I think it was because the world changed a lot. And most guys who, used to wear dress shoes no longer had to. So I was like, went straight into the New York City scene at the worst time in history for men's dress clothing. But it's neither here nor there. Just giving you stories and telling you how I've viewed things and where I've been and what I've been doing and why and etc. 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 So after I moved shop, I went back to the Pacific Northwest, where I'm from. So I'm originally from Seattle, for those that don't know. And when I was a teenager, my father, who was separated from my mother, and had another wife, my stepmother, migrated to North Idaho. At the time, when I was just a young city slicker kid, I didn't care at all about suburbs and countrysides and any of that stuff, because I was a dumb city kid who thought the city was everything and who looked down on the non-city people, because when you're a teenager you're not very bright and you have silly ideas about the world. And so I would visit him because, it was my dad. I wanted to go see my dad. I wanted to see my sisters. But, I was like, I can't wait to get back to the city, because he lived in the middle of nowhere in a 200-person town. And now, granted, I didn't deny the beauty. North Idaho, beautiful. Mountain ranges, lakes, quaint cities, etc., etc. It was gorgeous. But I was a city boy. My dream was to live in New York City. And so, that's my upbringing prior to age 24, in which I moved to Italy and then to London, and had nothing but city after city after bombardment of tight, dense cities, and then New York. So, after wishing to live in New York City, which I realized that dream, I can't say more how tired I am of cities. And so I went back to Seattle, really just to see my friends. But I really went back to go see my family that still remains in North Idaho, and see North Idaho, because my view on the countryside is now very different. And in fact, I love it. I go there and I feel at peace. You don't feel this bombardment that you do in the city. You see nature, you hear trees, you hear birds, you see nature you don't see. And it's got my dreams changing. And I no longer aspire to live in a New York City or any city even close to that. I now aspire to live in a countryside where my closest neighbor is a minimum of 100 feet away, minimum. And I have property and space and nature. That's my new aspiration. Those are my new goals. So I closed my shop, not only because it didn't make financial sense, but my goals in life are now different. That doesn't mean I'll stop doing what I'm doing, but I'll be doing it from elsewhere. No longer do men have to go to work. No longer do I need to live in a city. And when I say men have to go to work, I mean they can work remotely from their house, aka my client is now changing, which means I can also change with it. And that's the beauty of the world changing, is it allows you to also change with it. And so yes, my new aspirations are to move to North Idaho in the next few years and run my business differently than the way I do it now, because frankly, you can ship from anywhere. You don't need to be close to a city. It's only good if you want to be close to your clients. But if, I'm serving an online customer base, then I can be doing that from Timbuktu if I wanted to. Could do it from the remotes of northern Canada if they let me in. But I don't plan to go that far. Just back to where I'm from, really. An extension of where I'm from. Because I'm really from Seattle, but I don't plan to go back there. So, yeah, that's where I've been. That's what I've been doing. I've been dealing with the closing of a shop. I've been dealing with the realization of new dreams. I've been dealing with maneuvering in this crazy little world we live in, and all the changes that are constantly happening, not only just in the world, but also in the menswear industry, in the shoe industry, because lots of things are happening in the shoe industry. And, that's another video. This is more about just, hey, where have I been? Why haven't I been doing podcasts? Where's my time gone? Etc., etc. The shoe industry is drastically changing as well. That's another video, But yeah, I'm probably rambling now. I wanted to just give you an update and let you know what's going on. I'm still here. I'm still alive. I still plan on doing my videos, hopefully even more than before. I now no longer have the pressures of a retail shop that I have to be constantly present to and for. And now I have the ability to finally do things my way that I like. And I felt that I was neglecting my duty of sharing educational and important content to all of you. So hopefully I get back to that. And I appreciate everybody who continues to support, who's been eagerly awaiting a new video. Thank you. Do stay tuned. Nothing bad is changing. I'm not quitting. I'm not retiring. I'm pivoting and moving forward, because it's the only thing I know how to do is move forward. But my forward is not always the same forward as it was a year ago, 5 years ago. But I do plan to continue growing in different ways. And thank you for all of you that follow the journey. So here I am back again. Do stay tuned for more. I got a lot of unboxing videos and a lot of things to catch up on. All right. Have a great day. Thanks again as always. Bye-bye.